Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Meet the Author. Today, I have Nana Malone here with me. Nana, thank you so much for jumping on with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited that you're here. So, I always like to start these interviews with a little bit of like an icebreaker type question.
Okay.
Super easy, just kind of get the flow going. So, I have to know, do you consider yourself a dog or a cat person?
I'm a dog person mostly because I'm allergic to cats.
Totally fair.
Yeah. I mean, they're so cute, but they make me sneeze.
I have a friend that's like that with dogs, but she still like will just take a bunch of allergy medicine sometimes to be around me because she's like, dogs are too cute. Like I have to still see them.
I mean, I can be around them. I just can't handle them. So, like, sometimes, like, a cat will want to climb into my lap. I'm like, no, 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 no. Because the eyes will swell. Yeah, it's not cute. Like, me sneezing and being puffy it's not cute. So,
It's
dogs.
like I'm your friend from a distance. I'll love you from a
Right?
distance. Don't come closer
Like,
now.
I can play with you from a distance, but don't touch me. I cannot touch you. You cannot touch me.
Well, I'm sorry that you can't handle cats, but at least dogs. At least you get one of the
Yes.
fleas.
Yes, I get floof, and dogs are very friendly and they want to be around you. So that is also helpful.
That's awesome. Well, first off, thank you again so much for coming on here today. For anyone who maybe has never heard of you, has never picked up one of your books, kind of just walk us through really briefly who you are and kind of how you got into your journey of becoming a writer.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Nana Malone, and Nana from Ghana, if you will. And bonus, I am from Ghana. And I have been published for, God, since 2010. So that's 14 years published now. And I've been writing for, okay, well, then if it's 14, then it's 24 years. I started writing. Honestly, I read Bridget Jones's Diary. Like, for the younger folks, they're gonna be like, "What is that?" There was a year way back when, the summer of basically September 11th, and I was on the train and I was working in New York City, and that was the summer. Everyone and their mother, it was like June. Everyone and their mother was reading Bridget Jones's Diary. Every bookstore you went to, everywhere you went, it was everywhere. On the train, on the bus, everyone was reading it. And I can still see the cover, the white cover, and the orange kind of like design, and the eyes peering over. And I was like, what is this book? So I went and picked it up, and it was the first time that I'd read a book that, like, I think I really connected with the voice. Now, I've been a lifelong reader, so I mean, I was the only 9-year-old with her own Agatha Christie collection with the tiny ass print. I was like lugging that big ass book around. And it was the first time that an author I read, I was like, oh, that sounds like me. That sounds like how me and my friends would talk to each other, like the hilarity of it. I was like, oh, I can do this. Because normally you read a book and you're like, oh, sound like writer people, and it's like the way and the prose, and you think that, like, that doesn't sound like you. But then I was like, oh, no, 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 I can do it my way. And so I went home immediately and dragged out my, we have these like light ass, Apple MacBook Airs. It was like a 5-pound laptop, and I was like, yes, I'm writing a story. I mean, that story was terrible, and it took me 8 years to finish it. But my second book, after I finished that one, 8 years later, my second book, I sold that book. So that's how my writing journey started, thanks to Helen Fielding, a British lady in New York, in London, who has no idea who I am, but she changed the course of my life and my career.
You said it took you 8 years to write it, but the big takeaway from there, you wrote it.
Yeah, I did.
You didn't give up. Some
No.
people would have been like, okay, like I'm not cut out for this, or maybe I don't want to do this, or man, this has taken me so long, like I don't want to write it. And you finished it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you're still doing it. And like obviously it's one of those things. It's crazy to me how when people all the time, I do these often and people kind of tell me what gets them into writing.
Yeah.
Very often people are like, it took me years to write my first book. But then there's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many people that maybe on the other side, like are readers right now, or they're like thinking about writing a book, but
Yeah.
then it may take them, they don't have this huge idea after a couple of months and they're like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. And it's like,
Oh.
it literally took so many people years to get into this. Like you can still do it.
It's literally determination. I mean, and the number of people that will come out of the woodwork to tell you that you can't, for me, those people are fuel. Tell me I can't do something. for 1,000, Alex. And I'll be like, oh, really? Oh, for real? It's just like a big dare. I'm like, you think I can't? So, I mean, to all those people, thanks. But like, it's literally determination. So, I would start, and I mean, like, and look, I wasn't just sitting down every day for 8 years and being like, I had to, you'd start and then you realize it's bad. And then you go take a class and you have to learn conflict, motivation, goal. There are things you must learn along the way that are difficult, and they just, I mean, I think being a lifelong learner, like whatever field that you're in, is always good because I'm a class 4. I still take classes every day. Like, look, there's some new writing class, I'm taking it. If you ask me if I have the class, I have it. Don't worry, I'm signed up for all the groups, all the things, I have it. And so you just keep learning, and then you learn a new thing and you're like, oh, that's what's wrong. That's why I wrote myself into a corner. And then you go back. And I went to grad school and I got married, and and then I was working. You got to get a real job while you try and figure it out. Got to make money. And I remember I hated that job. It was terrible, and I was miserable. And I'd put the book down for a while, and my husband was like, "The only time you seem really happy is when you're doing this." And I was like, "Well, I don't, excuses." I had a lot of them. And he looked at me and he was like, "Shit or get off the pot." And I was like, again, that felt like a dare. So then I got off the pot. I was like, we're doing this. I was like, let's go. And the moment he said that to me, I finished it within a month. Like, I was not, I was like, like, you're not going to talk to me like that. And I finished it. And it was, I mean, it's terrible, but and he, very lovely. I don't even know where it is. He got it, he printed out all the pages and bound it for me. And he's like, proof that you can. And I was like, I mean, the next one took 6 months. And I sold that one. So, I learned some things along the way.
Just like
all lessons you had to learn. So, yeah.
And just like you said, everyone who told you that you can't, now you can just send them one of your books. Just like,
girl, yes.
The
way that they still follow me on Facebook. They follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and they'll be like, oh, wow. And I'm like, no, bitch, I remember you. I remember. I forget nothing. Thanks for that, P.S.
I actually have on my receipts. You could be one of those people that I've seen, the author who talks about it a lot on TikTok is Alex Astor. But just how she thinks, like, and authors in general, that people that do you wrong, you can write them in as villains into your books.
The number of times I do that, people have no idea. I never need a villain name. I always have one queued up. Hero and heroine names are always, like, I usually keep a running list somewhere, and then I'm like, oh, do you feel, and sometimes you change your mind. You'll be like mid-story and be like, you don't feel like a Noah. And then you go, Cage? No. But then you just put a placeholder in, just like, sometimes I'll just be like, Hero. I'm like, and I just keep going because I'm like, I know the story, but I just don't know his name. But villain names, I always have. What? I'm like, Becky.
You do me wrong once. Your name goes on a list.
Yep, until ticker. Listen, Lamont Ellis. I'm so mad. I feel like I'm like, ooh, Lamont.
Amazing. So, I love that so much.
I hold a grudge.
As you should. Anyone who tells you can't do something, you should remember that person. So the second you do it, you're like, I did this, and it's
always, always. My husband's like, maybe you should let it go. I'm like, never.
Awesome. Well, kind of walk me through your process too. You just talked a little bit about, how sometimes characters, you change their name and stuff like that because it doesn't fit them. But what is your typical process like now that you're well into your writing career, from like coming up with the idea, maybe it starts in your head, to finishing a book? Kind of walk us through what that looks like for you.
I get ideas all the time. And I learned very early on, that to finish something, me and Anna Malone, other authors are different. I can't get distracted, so I have to have focus. So what I'll do is I have an idea list, and I usually will allow if I'm excited and it won't leave me alone, I'll write 100 to 500 words on it, just to just to scratch the itch a little bit. And then I'm like, that's it. That's all you get. until I'm ready to deal with you. And sometimes it comes up again, so I'll allow myself another like 100 to 500 because something's usually it's because the current book is not doing what I wanted to do. So it's like a little bit of dessert to be like, to get me out of the frame. But usually I have an idea list and I'll be like, oh yes. I'm like college, sorority, something, something. Okay. And it's an idea and it just sits there until when I'm done with the book, I go back to the list and I see what's the most exciting because I'm a firm believer in really writing what excites you because the work is the work. Writing a book is work. And it's better to do something that's exciting you and instead of something you think you have to write. But for me, I'm a big outliner. I outline everything. If I don't, some people can just go and be like, oh my God, we're going to Denver. And they just like head out in the general direction of Denver. I cannot. I need to know where we're stopping, where we're sleeping, where we're going to get snacks, where we're going to get gas. So I need to know. And if I don't know, I'm very tense the whole time. And I'm like, we're going to get lost and I don't know how to get out, so I don't like that. So I'm a heavy outliner. And then I dictate to write. I blew the shoulder out doing martial arts years ago. And so the constant like writing and typing, that is a great way to get a sore shoulder. And so I'll dictate the chapters and I usually use my phone and I have an app. And then I send it to someone who transcribes it for me. And then they send it back. And usually I've tried to do it in the middle of writing where I, get some of the chapters back and I try and like clean them up or whatever. That does not work for me. So I have to wait till the end and put it together. And then I'm very old school. I print out the book. I print it out and then I hand edit it. I write all over it. It helps me see it.
That helps though, because it's crazy the amount of times like accidents obviously happen,
Yeah.
but that I still sometimes will go pick up like a book that is, obviously there's a difference between, traditional and then indie publishing and things like that.
Girl,
But
the errors in traditional books, it's not even funny.
crazy. It's literally crazy. Like I feel like I see them more honestly.
You do.
With
I mean, look, it's human beings. Even if you have 3 proofers, there's all like, and I always like my ARC team is amazing and great. And so they'll always be like, girl, I don't know if the proof, I'm like, send them because even with 3 proofers, someone else is like reading for this, someone else is reading for that. And like everyone, and then always, and you know who catches the most errors? Narrators. Every time I sit down with a narrator, I'm like, I have a new book. And they're like, great. Shane East is like one of the best. He will find every oops. Like that man is not playing. He's like, is that supposed to say that? And you're like, I'm like,
no.
Now if I can, I try and send him the books before like they go out. I'm like, hey, we're gonna do a thing. And so he'll act as a proofer and catch so many. But yeah, so then I send it to someone to transcribe and then I print it out and I write all over it and then I send it to someone else to type it in. And then I like will have Word read it to me. Read me the whole story, and then I catch things that don't sound right, that like sound fine when I'm reading it, because like still your eyes skip over things. I have Word read it to me, and I find a lot of things that way. That's how the banter is so good because I'll have it read, and I'm like, is that how it sounds? Oh my God. And then from there, after my revisions are done, it goes to my editor. And she does not take it easy on me, but I don't mind edits. Revisions I hate. Like, I mean, that whole process where I'm crying about it the whole time. Like, it's horror reading my own words. I mean, like, I'm a baby about it. Let's be real. But like edits from my editors are great because like she can see it from like a 30,000 foot view. So I do those edits, it goes back to her. I do those edits again. And then usually sometimes I'll get a beta read. Depends on if it's a book 1 of a series, definitely. Books 2 and 3, no, because I've usually got it by then. And then goes to proofers and many proofers. So many like we're just talking about many proofers. And then it goes to the art team and then it goes out. And hopefully everyone's like, we love it. And sometimes they're like, I like it. And I'm like, and usually, so if you can get your art team to do it early and they're just like, yeah, I like it. And you're like, oh no. And you can fix things.
Mm-hmm.
But usually the art team is like, I love it. And then out it goes. And if it's trad, it's a little different. I have because I've been in hybrid for a while. So I have a book with my editor now, and she's very different. She's very old school. She sends me paper via the Pony Express, which is which is she mails them, and I'm like, but there's editor. She has this way of like seeing, and she doesn't touch your voice, which I really love, but she has this way of like seeing like the through line, and she's one of the best in the business. She's been around forever, and she just has this way of seeing. And she's like, well, what if we moved this chapter this over here? And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like they're not crazy edits, but like she just sees the thing, and she's like, and she's there with like a little needle with invisible thread and stitch, stitch, stitch. So she's great. But she sends me paper edits that I have to like pick up and read and then type them. Yeah. So I mean, it depends for trad, but yeah, for my own, that's generally the process.
I think that's awesome, just that you have like such a process with it though. Like I feel like that helps so much versus, some people, again, it's different for each person.
Yeah.
I know some authors that I've interviewed that they used to be editors. And so they like will write a couple chapters, and then like they go back and then they read and edit their own chapters, and then they can write a few, and then they go back and read and edit their own chapters because like they did before. And it's like they can't move on until they've like done that and like completed that. And it's just so fun to hear how different every single person is.
Everybody's different. Yeah. And you have to honor your own process. And the thing is, I'll try someone's process. Sometimes, like I said, I'll get the thing and try and do it right away. Like, I'm like, oh, they're back. Let me handle it. But like and the reason I discovered the way I do it the way that I did is because I used to try and edit as I wrote, and the problem is I would never move on. That was the number one reason for me not having finished that first book, is like I would sit down and then I would reread and then be like, this is the worst ever, and then like restart. Like I scrapped a lot, which I had to learn for me. So then in the early days, I used to use this app called Write or Die, and they have this setting on it called kamikaze mode. Not only can you not delete, but if you do not write, it starts deleting things for you. Which forced me to just write the story, because I was getting held up with trying to make it perfect. I'm like, you can fix, Nora Roberts once said at RWA, she's like, you can fix anything, but you cannot fix a blank page. And I was like, true facts. So I trained myself because I was a person who had to go back and like fix it, make it perfect. But nothing is perfect because I'm a perfectionist. So I would have done those first 2 pages forever. So I had to train myself out of that, because the way my brain works is like, no, it's not perfect. Sometimes you just got to keep going. And then once you have a whole book, you're like, wow, make it as good as you can. And then let someone else do it. Yeah.
I feel like that would be like my mindset if I ever tried to. I'd have to like be like you, because I'm also very much like detail oriented, just like you explained with the trip. I gotta know where we're going. I gotta know what we're doing. I gotta know where we're eating the whole trip, so I can look at the menu beforehand. So I don't like
look at the menu. You're like these people who turn up at a restaurant and are like, let me look at the menu. What are you doing? We have the internet.
My fiance hates it. He's like, live a little in the moment. Let's just go.
Oh my God, that's exactly what my husband says. And I'm like, no, I want to list. This is the way we both get to have fun. Okay. You tell me where we're going. I look at the menu and decide what I'll even pick options, because sometimes they don't have the thing anymore, or it's like, whatever. I want to know that there are options instead of getting there and then in the moment being like, I guess I'll do this, and then just being mad about it.
It's funny because we'll do I'm always like a look at the menu first kind of person, and my fiance will just go order something, and then 9 times out of 10 he starts eating my food and he's like, yours is better, and I'm like, because I looked at the menu and I was prepared.
I looked ahead of time. I was ready.
I'm crazy. I'll even like go to their Instagram, like look up their Yelp. I want to see like what the food looks like too, because I'm like, that sounds good, but like, does it actually look good? And I'm like doing all the stuff.
Like, because I want to know the ingredients. If I don't see some garlic or ginger, I'm like, that's not tasty. Like, I just like, give me the taste. Like, I want to see it. I want to see that you know how to utilize spices. If I don't see it, you get some side eye, and then I'll like play it safer, right? It's like you go to a restaurant, they got like all kinds of dishes, and then like if I don't see that you know how to use spices, I will get the burger every time. If I don't think I could trust you, I'm like, no.
It's hard to mess up a burger.
Right? It's basic. Any idiot can do a burger, so we'll take it.
That's awesome. I'm glad that we seem to be very similar when it
Yes,
comes to
yes.
a
It's
few
the
things.
same way with writing. It's like I want to know the like where are we getting gas? Okay. Are we taking the electric car? Where are we going to charge? Where? I need
Well,
to know.
so smart. I want to jump back to kind of the beginning that you
Mhm.
said you're originally from Ghana. Kind of
I am.
talk to me about that. I think that's so fascinating. How did you end up from Ghana to here, and what was that like? I
Yeah,
want to know all about that.
I mean, obviously, given the accent, I've grown up here most of my life, but my parents are from Ghana. My parents were here. My dad went to Dartmouth, and my mom did nursing school in the UK, and then came to meet dad, and they were living up in Long Island, and my dad was doing his PhD at the time, and I turned up a little bit early. I was supposed to be born in Ghana, but I was like, hey, we're let's do this. And so dad had to finish his program, and then we left when I was a couple months old. We left to go back to Ghana, so my formative years were all spent there, and my grandparents and aunts and uncles, and uh, like I have like my all my childhood memories are just like of like fondly running around like outside my grandparents' house. And but there was a coup d'etat in '82, and at that point my parents were like, time to go. And so we left. My brother was born in Ghana, and we left. We came back, and I grew up in Massachusetts. Um, and it's being the weird African kid like who like wanted to read all the time was traumatizing. But like I grew up in Massachusetts, and then we would go back often after the coup was over. So I grew up kind of like hopscotching countries, and then going to see like aunts and uncles in the UK and all over the world. But yeah, I mean the accent. People are like, "You're from Ghana," and I'm like, if you look at my face, I am like my people. Any West African like sees me, they're like one of ours, and I was like, yeah, one of yours. I know. But like people get confused with the accent. But yeah, no, I mean I grew up mostly here, but I mean my parents moved back when I was in college, and so now that I have kidlit or teenlit, whatever which one she prefers, she's 13. She's been kidlit for years, but now she's like, maybe I'm teenlit. I'm like, yes, ma'am. But we're going to Ghana this summer, so and Ghana is so Western now, like they discovered oil off our coast, so like all the companies are there now. She walks around, she's like, there's so many Europeans here, what is happening? But I mean, she laughed, she's like, Mom, this is like Wakanda. And I was like, I can see that, I can see how you're saying that. But yeah, so we're going, and all my cousins are coming in, so it's gonna be this summer is gonna be a blast. So like watch my Insta, because it's gonna be stories upon stories of us just like eating and chilling, and I cannot wait. We haven't gone for 2 years. Mom was here last year, so we try and skip every other year. Um, so we're going back, but I'm excited. My husband was like, "You're going without me," so now he's like tried to add himself to the trip. He's like, "You would have gone without me. I'm coming too." And I'm like, "You weren't even invited, man. What you doing?"
That's just called like once you marry, you're going somewhere. It's like an automatic invite usually.
Right? I just know, but like he doesn't always come, and I was like, "But you were just there last time." Who said you were invited? We had our
I like
girls trip, and there you come being like, but I'm coming too. So, and now I'm like, fine, you can tag along, but I don't want to hear nothing but how I have to be spontaneous. Everything is planned, okay?
That's awesome. I love that you go back still all the time, and
Oh yeah.
that I think it's even it sounds like from an early age, again, going back and forth between Ghana and the States and then the UK, that you got to see and experience a lot too,
Yeah.
as you were
I mean,
growing
it's
up.
just, yeah, it's just, like I always can, people are like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, that's a long, complicated answer. But, like I just always feel like I'm a citizen of the world, and I write characters like that. Like I write characters that are like me and my cousins who like, were born here, grew up there, have lived here all their lives. And it's like, people are like, where are you from? And they're like, well, I've lived in San Diego for 20 years, but I went to grad school in London. I'm also from here, and then I lived here. So it's like those little pieces and experiences all um, make you up as a person. So like most of my characters reflect that.
I think that's so cool, especially again that you take stuff that you've experienced and you write them into your character so that other people in a way can experience it too. Because I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people, I've lived in Texas and I've lived in Oklahoma, and that's just I guess not that exciting. But it's cool to like read about characters and like places and all these other things that
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, I'd love to experience that one day.
Yeah.
Um, so I love that you do that with your characters.
Yeah, I mean, books. I mean, like I said, I was a weird African kid, so friends were kind of like, and so like books were like my escape. Like I read about all kinds of places that I was like, and I remember there was like a series, like a section of years where all the Harlequin silhouette and all the Harlequin desire and all like the Harlequin intrigue were like all set in Montenegro, or like people like because there was a war in Montenegro, but like all of the military romance guys were fighting in Montenegro, or like him and his team had been to, and I was like, where the hell is Montenegro? And I remember like looking it up, and I'm like, it's this tiny country, but they're like situated here. And then I was like, oh, there was a civil war and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, like that's how I learned about it, because
Mhm.
sometime at the time maybe I wasn't watching the news as often. So like I was like, I don't know where this is. I don't know what's happening there. So then I looked it up, and I was like, I've read like 6 or 7 books of Montenegro in it. Like, where is this place? And so like that's how I got to like learn and know and be like, oh yeah, and then this place and then that place and that, and that's how I got to like, in some cases like see a lot of the world, or at least learn about it.
I think that's so cool. Well, let's talk about your book that just came out too. Obviously, it's always meet the author. And I think that's personally something I love is like talking about what makes you who you are. And obviously, like your work's incredible, but it's so fun as a reader to like get to know more about you as an author. But I have my little notes page here. So let's talk about the takeover.
Yeah.
Um, kind of walk people through if maybe they have again not picked up the book yet, because obviously it is
What are
released
you
now.
doing with yourself?
You haven't picked it up on release day. How dare you?
How dare you? No. So Takeover. So anyone who knows me, I'm obsessed with like 2 sets of like legends. Anything Robin Hood. I don't care how bad the movie is. I don't care how bad the play is. I don't care how bad the book is. I will watch it. I will read it. I will consume it every single time. And anything Arthurian legend. Anything that's even remotely related to Arthurian legend, even though it's like, you have to squint real hard and like flip it on its side. I'm like, is that a King Arthur reference? I'm in. I do not care. I will watch it. I will read it. I will eat it up with a spoon. And so I really wanted to do something that was like a retelling of sorts. For a shout out to Sarah Simone's new Camelot series. Like I was like, that's spicy, King Arthur. So like anything in that realm, I really love. And so I was like really thinking about what my next series was going to be. I just finished a spy series at the end of last year, and I was like, oh, what's next? And I was talking to my friend Sky Warren. She's like, well, break it down for me. What are you thinking? And I was like, oh, I could do another spin-off spy series. I could do a spin-off royal series, because I did a lot of royals for a long time. Because then I've been like kind of trying to go back. And then I was like, and I have this like King Arthur series. P.S. That's where the list of ideas lives. And I have this like King Arthur thing. I was like, it's been percolating. I kind of want to do. And she was like, that one. And I was like, oh, really? Why? And she goes, well, that's the one you sound most excited about. And I was like, I do love an Arthurian legend. And so I wanted to make it King Arthur, but make it me. Because obviously everyone's like, Arthur and Lancelot. Is there cheating? Is there this? And I was like, I'm going to make it me. Right. So I generally don't do like, like a love triangle, but I am like, here's a line. I'm going to dance up to it. And I'm gonna be like, Lancelot is gonna be in love with Guinevere. But I make it all about Atticus, Arthur. Sorry guys, I couldn't make him named Arthur, because Arthur is not sexy to call out. Okay, it's just, it's not. That's not sexy. So I really wanted to write that, and then I was like, okay, but King Arthur, but make it what? And I was like, I could have made it spies, but I could have like given them all like spy code names, but I wanted to get away with that and kind of go back to pure billionaire, like
Billionaires.
yes. And then I was like, King Arthur, but make it billionaires. And I was like, I do love a Black queen, because I loved the Arthur show, the Merlin show. I loved that show, and I was like, Guinevere, Black Guinevere, because we never get to see ourselves as Guinevere. And so I was like, Black Guinevere, billionaires, obsessed. And I was like, I was like, let's have him fall first because he's a king and he's going to be all about power and glory. And then I'm going to bring him to his knees first right away because, we have to cut the king down a little bit, and the kind of the idea for Takeover was born, and so Micah makes an appearance, and he's got a sensitive soul, but don't worry, he'll be just as unhinged as his brother when we get to him. And I had all the Knights of the Round Table in there, so like Gavin is Gawain and Pierce is Percival, so like they're all in there if you're paying attention.
And I like that you kept the name, like Atticus,
Yeah.
Arthur, like you did it to where it's like, if you know what you're looking for, like you'll find it.
You'll find it. I was like, if you know what you're looking for, you'll find it. And then if you don't know anything about it, you'll be like, oh, okay. And then and just really like I wanted the story to be, one of like, hey, like we have to figure ourselves out, like we're in this situation. And I always find that's like if they're the same kind of frog. A Class by Theodora Taylor. She's changed the name of it again, but it was 27 Day Butter bestseller, or Universal Fiction. But either way, if you look up Theodora Class, like Universal Fiction or like whatever, you'll see it. Amazing class, by the way. If anyone's an author and listening, like you must take it. It's well recommended. But she talks about this process of the reason people connect emotionally is because they have the same kind of trauma, whatever that looks like. She calls them the same kind of frog, and she's like, that's why the Princess and the Frog works. They have the same kind of things. They're both trying to prove themselves. One is like flighty and can't find himself. The other one knows exactly who she wants to be, but she's a little too focused on that and is missing who she could be. But it's the same kind of frog. They're both trying to prove themselves. They're both trying to. So like, I really love that idea. And so they both have this kind of like family trauma that they're like trying to like work around or whatever, which leads to like a lot of great emotional conflict. And then they kind of like slowly work together. And everyone's like, it's kind of Grumpy Sunshine, except he's sort of sunshiny. He's not at first, but then he's like, but I'm in love. So he sort of turns, for her, he's sunshine. For everyone else, he's a little murderous. But he just
we love it.
Guy.
We love it when men fall first, and he's the definition of he falls first.
Yeah, he's obsessed. Like,
obsessed. Boy obsessed is the best. I think that's one of the best.
It's the best. It's the best. Like there's only one bed. It's weird. He's a billionaire with a penthouse, with all those rooms, and he's like, you can only sleep here.
Marriage of convenience, which we love.
Yes, arranged marriage of convenience. There's only one bed, and she's like, but this big penthouse, there surely must be another room. No. The servants will talk in here. Just gotta cuddle up, babe.
So I think for people that appreciate spicy romance, the fact that this man, he's got a mouth on him. You'll get like paragraphs, like and it's like paragraphs of dirty talk. I'm like, okay, Atticus.
And it's so funny because he's so like rigidly controlled 99% of the time,
but
unless he's dealing with Gwen. And then and he's like, it's funny because he's so Darcy coded because he's so stiff.
He really is
so stiff. And then it's like, and there's this one, I won't tell you what it is, but there's this one scene where she's like, she thinks he's like mad at her, and she's like, I just need you to use your words and communicate your feelings. So then he uses his words. A lot
of words.
so many words. Most of them being my wife, mine.
The best. If anyone is like on the fence about this book, if you like marriage, if you like a lot of my wife scenes, if you like he falls first and falls hard and tells her how much he's into it, there you go. That's all you need to know.
That man is like, he's like, listen, I don't know who else needs to know this, but you're mine and you're my wife. And she's like, but we are not married yet. And he's like, details. We're married. You're mine. Just get used to it. And she's like, I don't. And my favorite is that she's just like, this is so much. And he's like, and? Like he's basically like climbing into her lap, and she's like, I mean, he's very attractive.
She's strong though, and I think that's one of my favorite things about books like this is pet peeve of mine is when it's like a arranged marriage of convenience, whatever you want to say, and it's like she doesn't like you go along with it, but it's one of those that it's like, okay, whatever, like doesn't have a backbone, whatever. She's like, Gwen knows what she wants, and she's like
And it's
about
not Atticus.
she's like, I am strong and I am independent, and I guess I can't like now I have to deal with you, but okay. Like
She's like, I did not plan on dealing with you when I started this. But okay. I mean, and for me, one of my favorite things is that she's so loyal. Like, I mean, like she like is like straight up Katniss. She's like, I volunteers tribute. Wait, what? I have to marry who? Wait a minute. Wait, hold on. About this volunteering. And he's like, yep. He's like, that's the one I wanted anyway. And she like will do anything to save her people. So, like, and one of the things that's interesting about her is because like most, I can't usually write characters that like things happen to them and they just kind of like, because to me that's very Bella coded. If you I'm not a Twilight hater. My daughter is, but I'm not. Like, I find it enjoyable and fun. But like Bella was very much a blank slate and like, oh, you're a vampire, cool, I'm so in love. But like she was very blank and very nothing. And a lot of those billionaire books, which are, kind of fanficky, like they really like that Bella kind of like, I don't know what happened, I just have to go along. That's very Bella coded.
I
And
just somehow ended up with this billionaire, but okay, like I'm not gonna
I
ask
don't
any
know how this
questions.
happened. All right. But I like when women have at least some agency, like they know what they want and they know why they're there, and they have a real understanding of the decisions that they make. And all my heroines are like that because I can't write a heroine who doesn't have a goal, who's just kind of like, I'm just, roaming around and oh, I bumped into a billionaire. Oh my gosh, this is weird. Okay. And she just kind of like goes on with life. I'm like, no, that would change your life irrevocably. And if you like any sort of independence, and if you like when I read a book and like they meet a billionaire and he's like, now you have a bodyguard. The way I would buck and fight, I'm like, I got a what now? Like I would. Who sits there and is like, yes, take away my freedom of movement?
Have someone constantly follow me, and I won't say a word about it because you give me money.
I mean, I'm sure there are women like that, but like I'm not coded that way, and because newsflash, all the characters are me. I can't make them coded that way. So like, and in a realistic way, I try to have them kind of buck and fight the system within the confines of the trope, because I mean it's an arranged marriage, and she has to like, but like there you got Atticus being like, we had a meeting, and she's like, and. And she's like, I'm sorry, but did you think I like, yes, I'm marrying you, but
You can't
and
summon me.
I have to sleep in your bed, while sometimes you touch me. But listen, I'm not gonna just like bend over and just do whatever you tell me. And the way he's like, you have to eat. And she's like, I did eat gummy bears. That's a perfectly suitable dinner.
Girl dinner.
It's girl dinner. Why are you mad? So like that's my fun. Like that's really showing her like being like, no, I mean, yes, penthouse. It's very nice, whatever. But also, you can't tell me what to do. Like she's very like, you can't tell me what to do. I mean, unless you can tell me what to do. Right? Which I think a lot of us are. It's like, you're gonna tell me what to do. But I mean, if you use like the deep Atticus voice, I mean, I might comply. So,
I'd be
so
willing
that's
to like move things around a little bit to do what you
right,
want to do.
right. I just, so I mean, it was really fun writing them and like, and having him just so like rigidly controlled, and then like for her just folding like a house of cards every time. And he's like, well, what does she need? Yes, I will pay for all these people. Let me just write this check. Problem solved. And then she's like, I wanted to solve my problem. And he's like, I don't understand.
Like that's what I'm here for. This is what man.
Man. And she's like, idiot. So like I had so much fun. Like all of their banter scenes were just so great because I was like, what's the thing that's going to cause the most conflict? What's the like, instead of taking the easy way out, because there are lots of ways that some of those scenes could have gone, that she's just like, okay, been a much shorter book. But like you have to buck the system a little bit. Makes
There's
it
lots of
interesting.
twists, few turns, big cliffhanger. we'll kind of wrap up with talking about cliffhanger, why you like to do that to people. Let's talk about that real quick.
Listen, like I was telling Michaela before, I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so like it was definitely must-see TV. There was like you had if you couldn't work the VCR or your parents couldn't work it, you were gonna miss it. Like they left you on a cliff and you had to come back. Like you were gonna die if you didn't come back the next week. And I love that form of storytelling. And most of my books, I see them as movies playing, which is why the banter is like, and it helps that I dictate because I can hear the banter as it's going. Because it's like, what's the snappy comeback? And it's just like pop, 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 pop. And there's a cadence very specifically to my books. Like, so with that cadence comes, well, what's going to be the most painful thing I can do to you? Some authors do it with angst. I don't give you a lot of angst usually. I'm not having you crying from page one, with like a long love affair or something. You're not going to get 600 pages of weeping. You're going to get like a plot and pacing that's like, ooh, yes, 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 yes. And just when you're like, oh my God, yes, I'm going to be like, that rug that you were standing on, I need it. And if you don't scream at me, if you don't curse me, if you don't throw your Kindle or your iPhone or whatever it is you're reading on, if you are not
wrong,
if you're not in my inbox, like my DMs, if you're not in my DMs, if you're not crying, then I did something wrong. Because I want to make, as an author, like my whole, if I don't make you feel something, if you're not like, oh my God, or you're not mad, like I will take mad any day. Be mad. Like people are like, ma'am. And when I see that in the DMs, the way I'm just like, yes.
You summoned me.
Yes. And when people are like, how do I get on the list on the art team for acquisition? I'm like, that's amazing that you would ask that. That tells me I did my job. That was the gig. I'm storytelling. If I told a story in a way, it's like hearing a ghost story. Like if you're not like, and because you know how you'd be like around the campfire, and I did Campfire Girls because I was a brownie for like a minute, but then we moved. So then I did Campfire Girls, and they told scary stories, and I was terrified because in Ghana we don't tell ghost stories because we believe that you're going to be calling the ancestors of ghosts to you. So we don't do such things. So me, like I'm 8 years old, Campfire Girls, and they're telling scary stories, and this is me with my s'more, like, oh God. And then like right when they get to the part where you're like, oh my God, they're like, lights out. To continue the story tomorrow night. Like if I can't make you feel that where you're like your heart isn't going, did I do my job? So that's why. And if you look at my backlist, I have many, many, many cliffhangers. Like old school me before Cheeky Royal, really. I don't know, actually before Shameless. The Shameless series with my friend Minx Malone. I was a rom-com girl mostly. I had some new adults in there too, but like I gave you complete stories. But even then I was adding like a thread of suspense, like a little thriller, little dash. And like really playing my storytelling we did with Shameless. And then I started the Royals, and it was funny, they were supposed to be standalones. But I got to Cheeky Royal and I got to the end, and I was like, if I wrote cliffhangers, this would be a great place to stop. And then someone read it and was like, why don't you stop there? And I was like, that's a good idea. And then I was like, oh, and I fell in love with that that way of storytelling. So, I mean, sometimes, and I gave you guys a whole spy series, 5 books, no cliffhangers. Now I got to go back. I'm sorry.
She apologizes, but she doesn't actually, because she wants you to come into her DMs and say, why did you do this?
Yes. No, like I'm telling you, like I try and stay off social media during the day so that I can work. And so when I finish work, or I get ready to go get my daughter, and I open up the DMs, and there's several that are like, "Ma'am, excuse me, what? Why?" I'm like, "Oh, yes." Like, keep talking dirty to me. Yes, that's the goal. I mean, I'm gonna fix it, and there's gonna be a grovel. You know, there's I I I
Has to
know
be.
I know what to give you, and I plan to give it to you. I just wanted to break your heart first.
Just a little break and then slight fix in book 2, but like knowing there's book 3, so it can't be a full fix. So we just have to
Listen, don't look. If Gwen and Atticus are getting a happy ending, that's not a spoiler. That's how romance works. They're getting a happy ending.
it's
Um,
gonna work for
that's right. I'm just gonna make them. I'm gonna do things to them.
it.
That's
That's
all.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, is there anything I didn't ask or we didn't talk about yet that you want to just say here kind of as we're wrapping up today?
uh, Go get Takeover if you haven't already. Pre-order Acquisition and Merger. Fall in love with Gwen and Atticus. Don't worry. I know some people are like, I cannot read a cliffhanger, but if you just, all the books are up for pre-order, so if you just grab them, they'll just turn up, and then you'll be like, oh, as if by magic, they're there. And for all of those of you already crying, Acquisition has already been to the editor, so it's already done. It's
You
already
don't
written.
you don't make people wait too long.
Yeah,
You
you're not gonna wait. I'm not gonna make you wait a year. Look, I'm not writing fantasy romance. Okay, listen, I'm not gonna do that to you. Listen, because I will be the same person who's like, oh my god, this book is amazing. When is it? What? A year? Holly Black did that to me once, and I have never forgiven her. I've never forgiven her. She's a genius, and Holly Black, if you see this, I'm not mad, but I'm mad. It was a year, okay? And so I don't do that. Like, you're gonna get it. I promise. I promise. And those of you who are in my DMs asking about Micah and asking about Lance, I'm coming. Jesus Lord. The way
time.
give me time, okay? I'm gonna fix Lance. I know you guys see Morgan. I know. I hear you. I'm coming. Yeah, but Takeover is out now. And audio is coming. I'll do it before the third book releases. So audio is coming. I know my audio peeps are like, please help me. But I'm really proud of the book. I'm really proud of the series, and I can't wait for everyone to meet them.
I'm so excited for everyone to read it. And just thank you so much again for jumping on today and talking so much about your books and your writing process and just about who you are. I had so much fun talking with you today. And
of course, thank you for having me.
So excited again for people to pick up this book. It's available now. You can go read it real quick. Tell everybody where they can go get it. So if they're like, all right, I want to get this book right now, where can they find it?
You can get it from me, shopnanamalone.com. You can get it on Amazon, Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Google Play. There's all the places. You can go to your favorite library because it's through Kobo, so you can go to Hoopla or wherever and get it as well. So it's available everywhere.
Amazing. Yay.
Yay.
Love that. Well, thank you so much again for jumping on. And until next time, you guys make sure to stay subscribed to everything that's happening here at Michaela's Book Nook for future author interviews, recs, and more. And until next time, thanks everybody.
Bye. Thank you.